Let's go Dolphins! The offseason may feel like a ghost town for football fans, but behind the scenes in Miami, the heat is definitely on. And I've got some major updates for you straight from the heart of the Dolphins camp. Now look, we all know the Dolphins want to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl this year, and for that to happen, Mike McDaniel is going to need a roster that's not just competitive, but downright elite. And while the energy's building, there's a storm brewing when it comes to the quarterback room. Greer should have been shown the door already, but unfortunately, he's still around. And the decisions under his watch continue to raise eyebrows, especially with what's going on in this quarterback battle. I've got all the details for you. But before we go any further, if you're a true Miami Dolphins fan, make sure you smash that like button right now. But only if you've been repping the aqua and orange for more than 20 years. And drop a comment below saying, "Go Dolphins! My heart bleeds aqua and orange." Let's talk quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa is locked in as QB1, no surprises there. He's polarizing, no doubt. There's one chunk of the fan base that thinks he walks on water, another that's ready to ship him out at the first sign of trouble, and then there's the largest group, the realists, who just want to see consistency and health. We all want Tua to succeed because we want to see this team win. But let's not kid ourselves. If the injuries and inconsistencies keep stacking up, most fans won't hesitate to say it's time to move on. And it's not out of hate, it's out of necessity. Now, the real battle isn't for the starting job, it's for the backup spot. And here's where things get spicy. The Dolphins went out and gave Zack Wilson a $6 million contract. Yes, $6 million for a guy who couldn't even hold a job in Denver, where Sean Payton straight up chose Jarrett Stidham and even Sam Howell over him. That should have been a warning siren for Miami, a blazing red flag. But nope, Greer did what Greer does and handed Wilson a contract that already looks like a head-scratcher. Zack Wilson, by all accounts from OTAs and minicamp, is struggling. Struggling to grasp the offense, struggling to make quick decisions, struggling to not throw picks. And the irony? The Dolphins run a style of offense that absolutely demands quick reads, pre-snap motion, and RPO timing. This isn't Wilson's comfort zone. Yet he's sitting on $6 million, making it politically tough to just write him off. But it might come to that. Because here's the twist, Quinn Ewers, 7th-round rookie out of Texas, but this kid is no ordinary flyer pick. He was hyped going into 2024. If you remember, the NCAA video game cover had his face on it, and when he fell to the Dolphins, it was no accident. Miami had done their homework. They brought him to town, wined and dined him. He was practically wearing a Dolphins jersey before draft day. And now, he's outplaying Zack Wilson. That's not speculation, it's showing up in the practices. The interceptions from Wilson are piling up while Ewers, despite being a rookie, is showing more command of the offense. And here's the kicker, the scheme at Texas mirrors what the Dolphins run. Ewers isn't just getting by, he's comfortable. That's huge. We've seen what happens when the Dolphins lose Tua, the offense plummets. Last year, the drop-off from Tua to the backups was catastrophic. It can't happen again. Which begs the question, should Ewers be the backup? If you're asking this journalist, the answer is a resounding yes, as of today. Forget the $6 million sunk cost. You can't let that dictate who your QB2 is. You need the guy who can keep this offense humming if Tua goes down. And right now, that looks like Quinn Ewers. But hey, this is football. Things can change. We'll be watching the preseason games closely. With Tua unlikely to take many snaps, it'll be a full showcase of Wilson versus Ewers. And you better believe every throw, every read, every mistake will be magnified. Because here's the reality, if this Dolphins team is serious about making a real run in 2025, they can't afford to be sentimental or financially stubborn. The backup quarterback position is not just a nice to have anymore. It's a need to have. We've seen it too many times. Tua takes a hit, the offense grinds to a halt, and the season suddenly tilts. If the drop-off is steep again this year, it won't matter how stacked the receiver room is or how tight the defensive unit gets. One bad play, one helmet to helmet, and everything we're building comes crashing down, unless the guy stepping in is truly capable. Now let's get into what we've actually seen on the field from Ewers. Reports from minicamp show he's reading defenses faster, delivering with more rhythm, and adapting quickly. And unlike Wilson, who looks hesitant and unsure, Ewers is processing, not just playing, but reacting like someone who belongs. That says a lot for a 7th-round pick. And that's the part that should excite Dolphins fans, especially those of us who are sick and tired of watching this team collapse every time the backup QB walks onto the field. Meanwhile, Zack Wilson's situation is more than just disappointing. It's starting to feel like a sunk cost that the Dolphins are too scared to own up to. And let's be honest, we've seen this movie before. Miami throws cash at a guy with a big name, maybe a high draft pedigree, and hopes for a redemption arc. But the reality is, Wilson wasn't even good enough to be Denver's backup. Sean Payton, a guy who built offenses around Drew Brees and revived Teddy Bridgewater, took one look and said, "No thanks." And still, Greer said, "Sure, here's $6 million. How many more of these decisions are we going to watch unfold before accountability hits the front office? The fan base isn't blind, and it certainly isn't dumb. We're watching this quarterback situation play out in real time, and it's crystal clear. This needs to be an open competition. And if it is, based on pure merit, not salary, not draft pedigree, then Ewers should absolutely be leading the race. And let's not pretend the locker room isn't paying attention to this. Players know who's performing and who's not. They see who commands the huddle. They see who's putting in the extra work and who's still struggling with the playbook. If Mike McDaniel wants to keep that locker room behind him, he can't force Zack Wilson into a role he hasn't earned. It sends the wrong message that performance doesn't matter as much as politics. And that's not the culture this team claims it's trying to build. We've heard so much about accountability and earning your role. Well, now it's time to prove that. The preseason is going to be a pressure cooker for both of these guys. And what's even more interesting is the fans will see it all. The first and last preseason games are nationally televised. Everyone's watching. This isn't happening in the shadows of training camp. This is front and center, lights on, no place to hide. Quinn Ewers has the opportunity of a lifetime to not only make this roster, but to be one play away from leading a Super Bowl contending team. Think about that. And that's why every rep, every drive, every decision in the preseason matters. Not just for him, but for this franchise. If he continues to outperform Wilson and still ends up behind him on the depth chart, that's not football, that's failure in leadership. That's exactly the kind of decision that derails a season before it even starts. So here we are, Dolphins Nation, on the brink of something important. A team with legitimate playoff aspirations, a quarterback room that could make or break our year, and a decision that will define how serious we are about winning now. Is this team about performance, or is it about protecting egos and justifying bad contracts? And here's one more thing to think about. What happens if the Dolphins actually do the right thing and name you as the backup? That decision alone could shift the entire tone of the locker room and signal to every single player, perform, and you'll be rewarded. That's the kind of culture championship teams build. It also sends a message to Tua, not a threat, but a reminder. This is your team, but your health is crucial, and the guy behind you is more than capable. Competition fuels excellence, and if Tua knows he has someone behind him who understands the offense and can keep things moving, maybe that's what pushes him to that next level we've all been waiting to see. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine Wilson stumbles through the preseason, still can't find rhythm, still throws picks, but keeps the job because of his contract. That's a locker room killer. That's how you lose trust and leadership. Guys stop believing the message, and once that happens, it's only a matter of time before everything else crumbles. The stakes here are bigger than just QB2. They're about the identity of this football team. Are we really all in? Or are we still stuck in the same old cycle? Tell me what you think below.